Hi, my name's George Sachs. I'm a clinical psychologist specializing in ADHD and autism. And today we're going to be talking about burnout. What is burnout? How does it happen? And how can you overcome it and prevent it in the future? So I see a lot of burnout in my clients who are generally adults with autism and ADHD. And often the burnout happens for two different reasons in each, autism and ADHD. So let's talk about autism first. Autism, as you may know, is a challenge of social communication, meaning sometimes going to unstructured social events with people you don't know is very tiring and exhausting. Well, the antidote to this, because if this repeatedly happens week after week, month after month, also, particularly if you're in a job that is really socially oriented, like sales or something where you're around people a lot, it can be very exhausting and lead to burnout. So what I tell people all the time upon diagnosing them with autism is the most important skill they need to develop is not improving social skills, it's setting boundaries. So learning about yourself as an autistic person and learning to set boundaries, social boundaries, sensory boundaries, which is not an easy thing to do because many neurodivergent people grow up as people pleasers. I'm a recovering people pleaser, and I don't say that with pride. I just recognized how much I was doing in life that I didn't really want to do. And fortunately, a friend called me out on this behavior, which is really important. And I was able to see this people pleasing and develop awareness around it. And then, only then, learn the skills to set boundaries. When I say skills, it's not easy to just set a boundary because you have to say no. And often when we say no as a neurodivergent person, we fear conflict. So if you're autistic, especially, fearing conflict is a big deal. I also think this is why eye contact is difficult for people with autism, because eye contact in many cases raises the threat response system of our brains. So making sustained eye contact can be scary or threatening. In some cases, people with autism feel like they can see inside your soul, so they look away. But generally, people with autism fear conflict and avoid conflict. So saying no to somebody is potentially threatening. But this is often irrational because people often just want to hear a yes or no, and they don't really care as much as you think they do. But we think, oh my God, they're going to hate me. And then that triggers the perceived rejection and the RSD. So it's really important to test this out, and you can do this in with support of your therapist. But to test it out, meaning to try in a small way to say no to things, and then eventually bigger things, like that 3-day out-of-town wedding that you just don't want to go to, and you don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be unstructured social cocktail parties the whole time, and you're going to be totally overwhelmed and then burned out. So this is a good example. Calling your friend up and saying, listen, I was just diagnosed with autism. I know you have this great event planned, but it's going to be a lot for me. But what I would love to do is to take you and your partner out for dinner when you come back into town. You see, this is a boundary. And it's also a win for your friend because they are going to get to have a dinner on you when they come back, and you'll meet their partner. So it's not just saying, no, I can't do it. It's saying, no, that's not going to work for me. This will work for me. That's what a better boundary is. Because when we just say, no, I can't do it. No, I'm not going to do that. It can be too blunt for the other person. So, knowing yourself as an autistic person and knowing what your limits are socially and sensorially, if that's a word, you don't put yourself in situations that you're going to be overwhelmed, leading to burnout. that's the most important thing to prevent burnout in adults with autism, setting boundaries, which I, again, say is not easy to do, but takes practice. At least you can say, let me think about it. At least put that in there. This is actually recommended more for people with ADHD because of the impulsive nature to say yes to things. So we coach, let me think about it. But let's talk about ADHD. Often the burnout is not social in the sense that it is with autism, or sensory overwhelm, but it's overwhelmed with taking on too much. And this leads back to people pleasing. And people with ADHD are very good people pleasers because we were always behind the 8 ball growing up, always at a deficit, always on the outside of the circle, the friends circle. So we couldn't say no, God forbid. We had to say yes to everything, and that became a pattern. So the goal with ADHD to prevent burnout and overwhelm is to learn to say no to tasks and to things that are going to lead to overwhelm. And like I said earlier, this is often impulsive. It's an impulsive knee-jerk reaction to say yes. So instead, try to say, let me think about it. Add that into your verbal repertoire. Let me think about it. It just gives you a moment to go back later and say, yes, I think I can do it. Or no, I'm not going to be able to do that. And during that time period, you can really consider if you can get it done because we want to get the win. Often we impulsively say yes, and then we under-deliver. We don't deliver it, and then they're annoyed with us. Well, why didn't you just tell me, no, you couldn't do it? Then I would have found someone else. I think that's how most people think. But in our ADHD brains, it's like, oh my God, they're going to be so mad at me if I don't say yes. Let me just say yes. I'll figure it out. But we don't figure it out, and then we under-deliver, and they're pissed. And then we feel the RSD. So you see, we can avoid the RSD, rejection sensitivity, and the pain of that by simply saying, no, I'm really swamped. I don't have the time to commit to that now as much as I want to do it. If you do commit to it and you've thought about it, and you've taken time to think about, can I actually do this? Please get the win, Set a deadline that's further than you think it'll take. But it's really important to get the win. Win meaning being accountable. If you say yes. If you say no, you've cleared that off your plate. But accountability is a big problem for adults with ADHD, so we want to become accountable people. To that end, I divide the world into personal tasks and interpersonal tasks. And you really can do this. So what's a personal task? Plucking your eyebrows or shaving or trying to trim them, which I did today and obviously went a little too far, but they'll grow back. But you're leaving the house to go to a interpersonal task, which is meeting a friend for a drink or whatever. And then at the last minute, you decide to do a personal task, which is, plucking your eyebrows or doing something like that or something for yourself. And it's very important to deprioritize personal tasks. That doesn't mean self-care. I'm just saying if you have a competing task, a personal task and a interpersonal task competing, like when you're trying to get out the door, please prioritize the interpersonal task because that involves another person. That involves accountability. And being accountable is super important to stabilizing our shame because if we're late because we plucked our eyebrows taking care of a personal task, that's going to lead to shame and also rupture in the relationship. Okay? Which combined with all this stuff we have to do with ADHD leads to overwhelm, It all reminds me of those games we used to play as a kid. This one I'm thinking of was called Don't Tip the Waiter, where it had a toy waiter and he was holding a tray and the kids would put a chip on the tray and whoever put the last chip on, the tray would fall. But that's the way we approach life with ADHD. It's like, oh, I'm going to put one more thing on my plate. No. we don't have the bandwidth, and that leads to overwhelm and burnout. So the goal of this is to learn to say no without fear. And one more thing for both autistic and ADHD adults here, when you set a boundary, don't undo the boundary. And I call that post-boundary anxiety, where we finally get the courage to say no, to protect ourselves, to support ourselves. And then we have an RSD moment where we're like, oh my God, they don't like me. They don't, they're gonna not invite me to whatever. We can come up with a million, but basically rejection is the main fear. And we sit in that anxiety, and it grows and grows and grows. And then we send an email. Oh, you know what? I changed my mind. I can do it. I can go to your 3-day out of town wedding. And then you just feel horrible. So what happened there? You allowed the anxiety to determine your future. And the goal with post-boundary anxiety is to sit with it, to really sit with your anxiety and not let it determine, what you're going to do. Okay, so we talked a lot about burnout, overwhelm with ADHD and autism. Neurodivergent folks are often people pleasers, making it difficult to set boundaries. So the goal is to learn how to set boundaries and not undo the boundary you set with post-boundary anxiety. Okay, follow me for more advice on living with ADHD and autism. Take care.